Okay, this is Mahatma letter number 44, and in the chronological order, it is the letter number 45. This letter was written by Mahatma M to AP Senate, and it was received by Senate in Allahabad in 1882. So, as always, we know that Mahatma M, he writes in bright red ink. This letter is also written on a with bright red ink, and it is written on 2 sheets of regular size white paper on both the sides. This original letter, it is okay. So people who have visited the library, they can actually go through these letters. Now, why is this letter very important? This letter is very important because it reveals under what circumstances and under what conditions the Theosophical Society was formed and where it is heading. Okay, so on the slides, the words are verbatim from the letter. On 17th November next, the septenary term of trial given the society at its foundation, in which to discreetly preach us, will expire. We know that the Theosophical Society, it was established on 17th November in 1875 in New York. And now this letter is being written in 1882. So on 17th November of 1882, it would complete septenary term of its trial. This trial was to be done under conditions of discreetly preach us. What does this mean? Not any, they could not explicitly make the Theosophical Society in the external world, in the outer world. So they remain the inner founders, but externally HPB and HSO founded this society, and they could communicate to the people through them and through letters. So this number 7 actually, see, it is written septenary term. And for 7 years, this trial period of the Theosophical Society was given. This number 7 has a great occult significance, which we need to understand. Even when an aspirant wants to become a disciple of the master, there is a 7-year period, which is the probationary period of the aspirant. And if he is successful, then he is accepted as a chela. Similarly, this society was given a 7-year period for trial to see whether it succeeds in its objective. Okay, so the next point says, 1 or 2 of us hoped that the world had so far advanced intellectually, if not intuitionally, that the occult doctrine might gain an intellectual acceptance and the impulse given for a new cycle of occult research. Now, see here the intellectual principle, that is the 5th principle, manas. It is still perfecting itself in this 5th root race. And intuition, that is the 6th principle, the function of buddhi. It is still nascent in the average man of today. So the 2 Mahatmas, Mahatma M and Mahatma KH, they were hoping that the people would understand and accept these occult doctrines, at least intellectually. In nature, everything happens cyclically. There are smaller cycles within larger cycles. But the whole of nature, it is actually moving towards it is a progressive march of these cycles towards perfectibility. So in the last quarter of every 100-year cycle, there is an impulse which is given for this progress. The occult teachings and truths, they are given to the man as an impulse to speed up the evolution. And Mahatma KH and Mahatma M, they wanted to do the same in the last quarter of 19th century. That is from 1875 to 1900. The third point says, others, wiser as it would seem now, held differently, but consent was given for trial. It was stipulated, however, that the experiment should be made independently of our personal management, that there should be no abnormal interference by ourselves. So these were the conditions which were given for that 7-year trial. The other Mahatmas of this adept brotherhood, perhaps the senior adepts, the Chauhan, who is the spiritual guru of these two Mahatmas, they did not think that the time was right to give these occult doctrines. Yet they permitted a trial for 7 years on the condition that Mahatma KH and Mahatma M, they will not take a personal part in it, or they will not make any superhuman interference, that is any abnormal, supernatural interference. So now in November 1882, this 7-year trial period of Theosophical Society, it was coming to an end. So further Mahatma says, in casting about, we found in America the man to stand as leader, a man of great moral courage, unselfish, and having other good qualities. He was far from being the best, but as Mr. Hume's case, he was the best one available. With him, we associated a woman of most exceptional and wonderful endowments. Combined with them, she had strong personal defects, but just as she was, there was no second to her living fit for this work. We sent her to America, brought them together, and the trial began. From the first, both she and he were given clearly to understand that the issues lay entirely with themselves, and both offered themselves for the trial for certain remuneration in the far distant future, as KH would say, soldiers volunteer for a forlorn hope. So after receiving permission for the trial for this Theosophical Society, the Mahatmas, they envisaged the founding of the Theosophical Society. They became the internal founders because they were prohibited from any personal involvement. So they brought together Colonel Henry Olcott and Madame Blavatsky in America. Both of them, though they were not the best people because they were not perfect, but at that time, they were the best available for the work. So for this work, what kind of qualities are needed? Moral courage, unselfishness. And these qualities were in abundance in both, in Henry Steele Olcott and also in Madame Blavatsky. Henry Steele Olcott, he had been the colonel in the American Army, and he had great leadership skills and administrative skills, which would be required for a society of this size. And HPB, she was a born mystic. She had tremendous courage and loyalty to truth. So we too need to cultivate these qualities to be able to carry out the work of the Theosophical Society. HPB and HSO, they became the external founders. They carried out this work and they put themselves through much perils. They had to face slander. HPB had much ill health and many more difficulties they faced. But they would certainly reap their rewards. This was their good karma. This is what Master is saying, that they will certainly reap their rewards in the distant future. That is their remuneration. Master KH said that they were like soldiers who volunteer for a forlorn hope. This means, like in a war, the first wave of soldiers who move forward, there is high risk of casualty for them. They attack the first breach. So this is the forlorn hope. HPB and HSO, they were the first wave of soldiers which were being sent out. Now, for the 6 years, they have been struggling against such odds as would have driven off anyone who was not working with the desperation of one who stakes a life and all the prizes on some desperate supreme effort. Their success has not equaled the hopes of their original backers, phenomenal as it has been in certain direction. In a few more months, the term of probation will end. If by that time, the status of the society as regards ourselves, the questions of the brothers be not definitely settled, either dropped out of the society's program or accepted on our own terms, that will be the last of the brothers of all shapes and colors, sizes or degrees. We will subside out of public view like vapor into the ocean. So here we saw the society was formed with the external founders as HPB and HSO. By the beginning of 1882, both these founders, HPB and HSO, they had been relentlessly working. It was nearly 6 years now. This letter is written in the February of 1882. So it is nearly 6 years since they started working, and they worked with great determination and perseverance. Perseverance like their life depended on it. That was their supreme effort. In our case, sometimes we work half-heartedly. We think, what does it matter? But to succeed, we have to work with such an intensity as if it is a question of life and death. That is the kind of zeal and intensity that is required in our work in the team. So both the founders, they achieved a great deal of success in some aspects. They faced stiff resistance and slander from many quarters, but they continued their work and they took the world by storm. The radical ideas and the occult doctrine of theosophy, which they brought to the people, that took the world by storm. By their lectures, the Theosophist magazine, which HPB edited and brought out, and many TS branches which they established. So by this, they were able to show to the world at large what are the inconsistencies in the religious dogmas, what is the fallacy of the current day science, and what are the superstitions in the belief in spiritualism. And due to their efforts, eminent scientists and members of the people of the society, they started taking an interest in the teachings of the Theosophical Society, and they also became members. So this was their success in some aspects, but the hopes of the Mahatmas were not fulfilled. So what was the hope of the Mahatmas? Their hope was to provide the impulse for spiritual unfoldment in this last quarter of the 100-year cycle. Okay, the impulse given for spiritual unfoldment, was that happening? That was the main question. Because these most early members, instead of studying these wisdom teachings with an attitude of inquiry and research, they were hankering after spiritual phenomena. We saw in the previous letters that people were more interested in the brothers rather than brotherhood. There was demand for phenomena and there was demand for direct instructions from the Mahatmas. So their hope of that impulse for spiritual unfoldment, that was not happening. Now, Mahatma M is saying that in a few months, that is in November 1882, 7 years will be completed. So that probationary period, trial period of the Theosophical Society was ending. And if by that time, the clarity and acceptance was not achieved regarding to the role of the Mahatmas in the Theosophical Society, then they would have to cease all communication with the Theosophical Society. So it would be like they would just disappear out of the public view, like vapor into the ocean. And they wanted this acceptance as per their terms. What were their terms? That they could not give direct instructions. They could not use phenomena to convince the people. They could not make Theosophical Society an institute for instructions on practical occultism. It was not a school of magic. And above all, they said that the people, especially Sinnett and Hume, they should have patience. All the teachings would be given out, but in due time. So these were the terms which the Mahatmas had set. And this had to be either adhered to or accepted, or the communication would not be possible. Then they say, only those who have proved faithful to themselves and to truth through everything will be allowed further intercourse with us. And not even they, unless from the president downward, they bind themselves by the most solemn pledges of honor to keep an inviolable silence thenceforth about us, the lodge, Tibetan affairs, not even answering questions of their nearest friends, though silence might seem likely to throw the appearance of humbug upon all that has transpired. So Mahatma M is saying that even though they might have to stop all communication, but communication would continue with a few. Who were those? In spite of all the hardship, those people who would persevere, who will study the teachings, and who will follow the path of service and altruism faithfully, they will have proven their loyalty to truth. Such people would be allowed more them. But there was one more condition. All such people, right from the society president, they must pledge that they should not speak about or even answer any query related to this Adept Brotherhood. Not only that, also about their lodge in Tibet. Now, this White Brotherhood, they have 3 centers on earth, one of them being Lhasa in Tibet. So, all the people who would continue their communication with the Mahatmas, they would have to pledge silence on all these things. Now, when such true followers, they are questioned by the society, by the people or friends and family as to the whereabouts of their teaching, the source of their teaching, and the people continue to remain silent. So this might be construed that whatever happened in the past 7 years of the Theosophical Society, that was a mere deception, that was all falsehood. So this was a risk if the people remained silent. And people might think that these adepts, as they call them, mythical brothers, they are actually just a myth. So be it. The Mahatmas did not care. They don't have the slightest interest in making themselves known to the outside world, but they wanted this silence to be inviolable, which cannot be broken. So in such a case, effort would be suspended until the beginning of another septenary cycle, when, if circumstances should be more auspicious, another attempt might be made under the same or another direction. So in such a case means, in which case? In the case where the world thinks that the Mahatma and the TS and all their teachings, they are deception or falsehood. In such a case, and this would happen in case due to the pledge of silence, which the people who want to continue their communication, they would have to take. So in such a case, if the world thinks that this is all deception, then their efforts would have to be stopped. This septenary cycle would be completing, and the effort towards this cause, which they started, this effort would have to continue in another septenary cycle, when the circumstances would be more favorable. So by more favorable, it seems that perhaps when the intellect and intuitive principle of man become developed enough that he can assimilate these wisdom teachings, then there could be a start of another septenary cycle. See, right in the beginning, Mahatma M said that in this cycle, they hoped that people might have developed intellectually and intuitively. But if that is not the case, then they would have to wait for another septenary cycle when these principles are developed enough. So we can see here the sacrifice and devotion of the Mahatmas to this cause of spiritual unfoldment. They have relinquished their own nirvana and they are ready to help humanity in its spiritual advancement. So this was their attempt, the trial of this Theosophical Society. And here they are indicating that even if this effort fails in one cycle, they will resume it in another. They will resume it under the same or in another direction. So this point clarifies that the Mahatmas are working not only through the Theosophical Society, but through other methods as well. And we do not have any idea, many of us don't have any idea what those other methods could be. But this is the impulse that they give. So next Mahatma M is saying, my humble impression is that Hume Sahib's present pamphlet, highly intellectual as it is, might be improved so as to help enormously in giving the needed turn on society's affairs. And if he would trust more to his personal intuitions, which, when he needs them, are strong, and less to the voice of the one, the pamphlet would be converted into one of the most powerful works that this movement has evolved. Hume's pamphlet, it is a reference to the pamphlet called Hints on Esoteric Philosophy. This was written by Hume in response to a long letter, a letter by one of the members or perhaps one from the general public, and he denounced Theosophy and the masters and he called them a sham. So this pamphlet, it was written by Hume in response to that letter. It is available in PDF format. It is there on this website of Blavatsky Study Center. So we can download it and study it because it is a brilliant reply which Hume has written, and it gives valuable information on the truths on the theosophical teachings. So whenever such occasion demanded, like in this case, when the reply had to be given, at that time Hume's intuition was very strong. He could correctly write about the esoteric values of these teachings. But most of the other times, Hume would disregard this, his inner voice of higher self, his intuitive voice. And he would be guided by the voice of his personality, because Hume had this personality. It was centered in his own self, the selfish personality of self-interest. So when he heeded to the higher voice, the voice of his intuition, then Hume was capable of doing brilliant work for the Theosophical Society. And what he wrote in this pamphlet, it was very intellectual. Mahatma Ji thinks that by making pamphlet can become a great help to give the right direction to the work of the TS, which was to give an impulse for the spiritual unfoldment. In fact, it would go on to become one of the most powerful work of the Theosophical movement. So it will do very good to us if we study this pamphlet carefully. So this was what Mahatma M has written to Senate about the initial conditions under which Theosophical Society is established, in what direction it is heading, and how it can move forward. With this, we come to an end of the Mahatma letter number 44. And since we have enough time, I will be moving to the next letter, that is Mahatma letter number 45. So this next letter, number 45, it is written by Mahatma KH to AP Senate, and it was received in the same month, February 1882. Okay, and this was the first letter written by Mahatma KH after he came out of his retreat. We know that he had gone into Samadhi. So Mahatma KH, his letters are written in blue ink. This letter is written on 6 sheets of paper. It's a very long letter. But as it is long, it is also very important. Its importance lies in the fact that here Mahatma KH has revealed to Senate how we can draw the masters towards us. And this letter gives the true meaning to the saying that when the student is ready, the master appears. So how we can draw the masters towards us. So this letter begins with Mahatma KH says, I have been on a long journey after supreme knowledge. I took a long time to rest. Then upon coming back, I had to give all my time to duty and all my thoughts to the great problem. It is all over now. The New Year's festivities are at an end and I am self once more. But what is self? Only a passing guest, whose concerns are all like a mirage on the great desert. See here, we know Mahatma KH had gone into a long retreat, that is a Samadhi, from October to December 1881, 3 months period. Now this is a sadhana, a discipline which the adepts take up to attain supreme knowledge. That is, what is supreme knowledge? Direct knowledge. It is the direct experience of unity of the whole. The consciousness is expanded to experience itself as the whole universe. Thus, it becomes universal consciousness. This is the state and experience we can say of Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahma. Now, this I am telling you only as per my understanding of supreme knowledge. Here, Mahatma KH does not elaborate what is supreme knowledge. So, after he returned from the retreat, Mahatma KH devoted his time and thoughts to the duty and great problem. We know that the Mahatmas, they are members in the hierarchy of adepts of the Great White Brotherhood. They have several duties and tasks to be carried out, other than what we are seeing, that is through the Theosophical Society. They have several more and higher duties. So Mahatma KH was occupied with it. And also at that time, the Tibetan New Year festivities were going on. The Tibetan New Year, it is called Losar. Okay, and it is celebrated for a long time. For 15 days, it is celebrated. So just like in the Indian calendar, we have this, we follow the lunar calendar. Okay, and our New Year doesn't fall on the same date every year. Similarly, this Tibetan, it varies, the dates vary. So in 1882, this Losar, it fell on February 18. And those, that is the time when also Mahatma KH had come out of retreat. So all those celebrations were going on. But now those festivities and celebrations were over. And Mahatma KH says that he has come back to his self. So see, Mahatmas, though they are centered in their higher self, but they can take a physical, that is a physical self, the personality. So he's saying that this self to which he has returned, it is, here he's referring to the personal self, which is a passing guest. That means it is temporary. It comes and goes. Just like guests, they come and go. We don't want the guest to stay forever, right? So this lower self, the personality, it is temporary like a guest. And everything that is concerned with the personality, that is also temporary. That is why it is called illusionary. It is like a mirage. Okay. Further, he says, anyhow, this is my first moment of leisure. I offer it to you, whose inner self reconciles me to the outer man, who but too often forgets. Great man is he who is strongest in the exercise of patience. Look around you, my friend. See the three poisons raging within the heart of man: anger, greed, delusion, and the five obscurities: envy, passion, vacillation, sloth, and unbelief, ever preventing their seeing the truth. They will never get rid of the pollution of their vain, wicked hearts, nor perceive the spiritual portion of themselves. This is a very important point which Mahatma KH is bringing to the attention of Synod. After Mahatma KH returned from his retreat, the first free moment that he got, he used it to write his reply to Synod. Now, Synod, he revered Mahatma KH a lot. His inner self was very sincere. He sincerely aspired to learn from the Master and progress on this spiritual path. That is why Mahatma KH is ready to reconcile, to bear with Synod's outer personality. That is his outer self. Synod's outer self or personality, how was it? He was very impatient. Okay. So, but Mahatma KH was ready to bear with it, to reconcile with it. Synod was impatient. He wanted to receive all the teachings from Mahatma KH now. He could not wait. He was very impatient. So he wanted to receive the teachings now at once. So from this, we must understand what is the virtue of patience. Okay. So the aspirant, we are all aspirants, right? So we should patiently work on ourselves to get rid of the three poisons: anger, greed, and delusion. Delusion is false impression. The mind is deluded. It is thinking something to be true, whereas that is not the case. So these are the three poisons. poison kills, right? Poison will kill the person. So these poisons, they kill our buddhic perception. They kill the buddhi vivek. Okay. And we are not able to realize the good from the bad, the truth from the falsehood. So as we progress on the spiritual path, we want to attain wisdom, we want to attain liberation, or many spiritual aspirations we have. But this does not happen if our heart is polluted by these three poisons and the five obscurities. So the spiritual perception that we have, that is covered. The buddhi vivek, which can see the truth, that is covered. And we have to work patiently to remove these poisons. Okay. The five vices which are polluting our heart, they prevent us from realizing the truth. These five obscurities, they are envy. Envy is jealousy, jealousy of some other person. The second is passion. Now, passion, sometimes we think it is a good thing, because if I'm very passionate towards my aim or my aspiration, then I will work for it. But that is not always the case. Passion is also uncontrolled emotion. Passion is the quality of rajas. In Prakriti, we say there are three gun: sattva, rajas, and tamas. So passion is the rajas, gun of rajas. And we have to move from that towards sattva, that is rhythm and harmony. So that is why passion is also a obscurity. It obscures the reality, the truth. The third obscurity is vacillation. Vacillation is indecisiveness. We cannot decide whether to do this or to do this, whether to go this way or that way. So that indecisiveness should go. We must be firm in our decision. The fourth is sloth. Sloth means laziness, not putting enough effort in achieving our goal. And fifth is unbelief, doubt. It is one of the first fetters which we have to get rid of when we are on this path of spiritual unfoldment, on path of discipleship. We have to get rid of doubt. So see, all these lower qualities, the three poisons, these five obscurities, they have been accumulated within us over a period of long time. Our previous lives, we have passed through countless previous lifetimes, accumulating all these lower qualities. So to get rid of them also, it will take a long time. It is not the work of one lifetime. And that is why we have to patiently and perseveringly purify our heart from these pollutions. Otherwise, spiritual perception will not arise. Okay? So that is the significance of these three poisons and five obscurities, which Mahatma K.H. is telling Sinnett. He tells Sinnett, will you not try, for the sake of shortening the distance between us, to disentangle yourself from the net of life and death in which they are all caught, to cherish less lust and desire? So till we don't give up our lust and desires, we remain caught in the net of life and death. This is the wheel of incarnation, reincarnation. Desire or attachment, this is the root cause of rebirth. Now, to come closer to the Mahatmas, to be able to communicate with them, we have to work towards freeing ourselves from this cycle of life and death. That means this attachment due to desire, we have to make it go away. So we have to cherish it less and less. Okay. Mahatma K.H. says, at least try. See, this is a very important word, try. It comes repeatedly in all the letters. The Mahatmas keep telling us, try. And we have interpreted it variously. In some previous letter, we mentioned this to be Tadak Raj Yoga. Okay. I take this as a meaning. Try means we have to try. So what does it mean for us? We have to do our karma. Try, work, do your karma. Only then the grace comes. The grace comes from the master. But first you have to do your work. You have to do your karma. Now, the next point is about a young person, Portman. What does Mahatma say? Young Portman is seriously meditating to leave all, to come over to us and become a Tibetan monk, as he puts it. His ideas are singularly mixed upon the two entirely different characteristics and qualifications of the monk or lama and the living La or brother. But let him try by all means. So Portman was one of the early members of Theosophical societies, perhaps. He was so influenced by the teachings and the Mahatmas that he wanted to become like the Mahatma himself. He thinks, so he had a misconception. He thinks that the Mahatmas are monks or lamas. He doesn't know the difference. He does not know who are these Mahatmas and who is a Tibetan monk. So actually, lamas in Tibetan Buddhism, lama is actually just a teacher for the dharma. Whereas the term la, that means a very exalted spirit, a very high spirit. And in this Tibetan, or rather, what do we say here? The term la means an exalted spirit, that is spirit of the high spheres. So la is given as a title to saints and yogis in Tibet who have attained very high occult powers. So Mahatma K.H., Mahatma M, and other Mahatmas of this occult brotherhood, they have all attained very high occult powers and their consciousness is unfolded to that level. So that is why they are called Las. Okay, we know that the capital city of Tibet, it is called Lhasa. Lhasa means the place of residence of these Las, and that is Lhasa is in one of the centers of this occult brotherhood. So the Dalai Lama also had his residence in Tibet. He's now in India. So Portman does not know this difference. So Mahatmas are again telling him, let him try by all means. You see, try is such an important concept. Try, do your karma. Okay. So that you will avoid in raising any such obstacle, I know well. But man, after all, is the victim of his surroundings while he lives in the atmosphere of the society. So it was becoming very much difficult for Mahatma K.H. to continue his exchange of letters with Sinnett, even though he had very high regard for Sinnett's sincerity. So why was this happening? Why was that difficulty coming? It was because of these obstacles which were being created by Sinnett himself. See, just like Sinnett, a person may be very good, he may be virtuous and sincere, but what happens? His behavior gets influenced by his surroundings, by the society where he lives. The friends and the company that he keeps, they influence his behavior. So unintentionally or due to peer pressure, the aspirant, he may act in ways which is contrary to his good and pure nature. The same thing happened with Sinnett. His behavior would be influenced by Hume or by the people who are surrounding him. And this would pose as an obstacle for the communication between him and the Mahatmas. So also, we must also be very alert. We must be very observant of our own behavior. Are we behaving in line with our spiritual aspiration? Or aspirations are spiritual, but our behavior, it is influenced by the world of personality. So if there is this discrepancy, then it is difficult for the Mahatmas to communicate with us. This is one of the ways we have to be vigilant about it. So I think we can stop here, or should we move to the next slide? I think we will stop here. And because this is a logical ending also, so we will continue this letter number 45, Mahatma letter number 45 in our next session. Thank you very much. And I would invite Sister Meenakshi to give the Hindi translation.
Namaste. Namaste, sister. Thank you. आज हम लेटर नंबर शुरू करें.
Just a minute. यस, स्टार्ट करिए।
मास्टर एम एपी सीनेट को लिखते हैं, जो कि फरवरी 1882 में लिखा है। मास्टर एम सीनेट से कहते हैं कि आने वाले 17 नवंबर यानी स्थापना दिवस पर थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी का सप्तवर्षीय परीक्षण काल यानी कि ट्रायल और हमारे उपदेशों की अवधि समाप्त हो जाएगी। सिद्ध संघ में से एक या दो में आशा जागृत हुई कि दुनिया आंतरिक रूप से न सही बौद्धिक रूप से विकसित हुई है और गूढ़ सिद्धांत की शायद स्वीकृति होगी, जो गूढ़ विज्ञान के अभ्यास का प्रेरणा स्रोत होगा। अन्य महात्मागणों की भिन्न राय थी, लेकिन इस कार्य के परीक्षण के लिए वे सहमत हुए। यह निर्धारित किया गया कि यह प्रयोग हमारे व्यक्तिगत प्रबंधन से स्वतंत्र रूप से किया जाना चाहिए और किसी भी प्रकार के हस्तक्षेप के बिना होना चाहिए। इस कार्य के नेतृत्व के लिए पात्र हमें अमेरिका में मिले, यानी कर्नल ओलकॉट। ऐसे व्यक्ति जिनमें असामान्य नैतिक मनोबल था, सामर्थ्य था, वे निस्वार्थी थे और कई उत्तम गुणों से परिपूर्ण थे। इस कार्य के लिए वह श्रेष्ठतम थे। उनके साथ मैडम ब्लेवेट्स्की को शामिल किया गया, जो असाधारण और अद्भुत थी, प्रतिभाशाली थी। साथ ही उनमें जोरदार व्यक्तिगत दोष भी थे, लेकिन वह जैसी भी थी इस कार्य के लिए उचित थी। उनका पूरक दूसरा कोई न था। हमने उन्हें अमेरिका भेजा और दोनों को मिलवाया और इस महान कार्य की कसौटी शुरू हुई। दोनों को शुरू से ही यह स्पष्ट रूप से सूचित किया गया कि जिस महान उद्देश्य के लिए उनका चयन किया गया है, उसकी कार्य सिद्धि संपूर्णतः दोनों पर निर्भर करती है और दोनों स्वयं को इस कार्य में समर्पित करते हैं। भविष्य काल की संघर्षमय कसौटी में स्वेच्छापूर्ण रूप से अपने आप को झोंक देते हैं। मास्टर कहते हैं कि दोनों 6 वर्षों से करंट चला गया। 6 वर्षों से विषम परिस्थितियों का डटकर सामना कर रहे हैं। अपना जीवन व सब कुछ एक महान कार्य पर न्यौछावर करने की भावना से यदि प्रेरित न होते तो अन्य कोई पीछे हट जाते। इस महान कार्य के पीछे के प्रेरणा स्रोतों की अपेक्षानुसार शायद इस कार्य में सफलता न मिली हो, लेकिन कुछ क्षेत्रों में संस्थापकों ने असाधारण कार्य किया है। कुछ ही महीनों में परीक्षण काल खत्म होगा। तब तक यदि सोसाइटी में सिद्ध संघ के बारे में सोच विचार, उनकी स्थिति, सत्यता, मिथ्या के प्रश्न सुलझे न गए तो हम पूर्णतया सोसाइटी से विलग हो जाएंगे। सागर में भाप की तरह हम दुनिया की नजरों से ओझल हो जाएंगे। सिर्फ उन्हीं लोगों से हमारा संपर्क रहेगा जिन्होंने खुद को विश्वसनीय साबित किया हो और सच्चाई पर विश्वास रखते। प्रेसिडेंट से लेकर सभी सिद्ध संघ के बारे में, तिब्बत में हमारे कार्यों के बारे में चुप्पी साधने की गंभीरतापूर्वक प्रतिज्ञा ले। अपने करीबी मित्रों से भी हमारे बारे में प्रश्नों पर चुप्पी साधे, मौन रहे, चाहे यह मौन पाखंड ही क्यों न प्रतीत हो। यदि परिस्थिति अनुकूल हो तो इसी या अन्य दिशा में अगला सप्तवर्षीय काल शुरू होने पर एक और प्रयास होगा। ह्यूम के लिखित पैम्फलेट पर मास्टर कहते हैं कि उनका लिखान उच्च दर्जे का है, जिसमें सुधार की गुंजाइश है, जिससे सोसाइटी के कार्यों को आगे बढ़ाने में काफी मदद होगी। और यदि वे अपनी अंत प्रज्ञा पर ज्यादा विश्वास करते हैं, रखते हैं और ध्यान देते हैं, तो इस नए आंदोलन के विकास में वह एक प्रभावशाली कार्य होगा। अब हम महात्मा लेटर नंबर 45 में आते हैं, जो कि फरवरी 1882 में लिखा गया था। यह पत्र मास्टर KH AP सीनेट को लिखते हैं। मास्टर KH कहते हैं कि मैं दिव्य ज्ञान प्राप्ति की दीर्घ यात्रा पर था। तत्पश्चात लंबे समय तक विश्रांति ली। लेटर नंबर 37 में हमने देखा कि मास्टर KH 3 महीने की लंबे समय की समाधि अवस्था में रहते हैं। वे अति संवेदनशील उच्च अवस्था में थे और बाद में एकांतवास में होते हैं। वे कहते हैं कि विश्रांति के बाद अपना पूर्ण समय अपने कर्तव्य पूर्ति में और गंभीर विचारों में लगाया। तिब्बत के नए साल का उत्सव भी शेष होने वाला है और अब मैं अपनी पूर्व अवस्था में अपने स्व में हूँ। लेकिन स्व क्या है? केवल एक गुजरता हुआ अतिथि जिसकी चिंताएं, सोच मृग तृष्णा समान होती है। लंबी अवधि के बाद मिले फुर्सत के पल मैं आपको अर्पित करता हूँ, जिसका आंतरिक उच्च स्व मुझे बाहरी व्यक्ति से निम्न स्व से मिलाता है, जो अक्सर यह भूल जाता है कि महान व्यक्ति वह है जो धैर्य से काम लेता है, अपनी चारों ओर नजर डाले। मेरे मित्र, मनुष्य के दिल में उफनते 3 जहर देखे: क्रोध, लालच, भ्रम और 5 मलिनताएं: ईर्ष्या, जुनून, चंचलता, आलस्य और अविश्वास, जो सदा सच्चाई का बोध होने में बाधा डालती है। ऐसे लोग कभी भी इस व्यर्थ की मलिनता से, दुष्टता से मुक्त नहीं हो पाएंगे, ना ही अपने दिव्यत्व को समझ पाएंगे। मास्टर कहते हैं, क्या आप हमारे बीच की दूरी को कम करने की कोशिश नहीं करेंगे? बाकी लोग जो इच्छा, आकांक्षाओं के और जन्म मृत्यु के जाल में फंसे हैं, उससे मुक्त होने की क्या आप कोशिश नहीं करोगे? युवा पोर्टमैन सब कुछ छोड़कर हमारे पास आने के लिए और एक तिब्बतन मॉन्क बनने के लिए गंभीरता से साधना कर रहा है। लामा और महात्मा सिद्ध पुरुष, इन 2 भिन्न योग्यताओं में उसके सम्मिश्र विचार है। हमारे बीच का पत्र व्यवहार सिर्फ आपके अपने समझदारी पर निर्धारित होगा। मनुष्य जिस सामाजिक माहौल में रहता है, उसके प्रभाव का वह शिकार होता है। ऐसी कोई बाधा का निर्माण न हो, इस बारे में आप कोशिश करेंगे, इस पर मैं विश्वास करता हूँ। शायद यहीं तक था। इसके आगे था, आपने पढ़ा?
Thank you, Sister Vibhaji and Sister Meenakshi ji, for very wonderful and elaborate explanation of the letters. I would like to ask one thing, that he has mentioned about 3 poisons: anger, greed, and delusion. So when one is angry, but after a certain time he realizes that, okay, this was anger and now it has gone. Similarly, greed, one can contemplate and understand that, okay, this is greed. But as far as delusion is concerned, it is because one believes in that whatever is false, one believes that is true. So how to get rid of, or how to come out of delusion, or how to identify that whether it is truth or delusion? So I like to comment on that.
Okay. So is it Madam Arunima? Is it? Yes. Okay. So your question is very good. The other vices, they can be got rid of, but this delusion, it is a state of the mind. So that is why Theosophical Society, what is the first recommendation? Study, meditation, and service. Study of the teachings which have been given to us by the Mahatmas themselves. That is what we are doing here in this study of the letters. Because when you will study what is right, this delusion of your mind, that will be removed. You might be under some false impression, you might have some false beliefs, okay, which you think are to be true. But when you will study it and compare it with what the Mahatmas are telling us, then those beliefs will be rectified, they will be corrected.
वो भी जाने वाली चीज है। अब जो लोग
Anybody else has another opinion on this? You are welcome to discuss.
पूछो।
हेलो मैडम,
Yes.
ये यहाँ पर ये आपने बताया था अहम ब्रह्मास्म में बोला महात्मा ने, फिर उसके बाद बोला कि आई एम सेल्फ अगेन, वंस मोर। इसका क्या मतलब हुआ कि लोअर उसमें आ गए हैं?
जी, एक बात मैं आपको क्लैरिफाई कर दूं कि महात्मा जी ने नहीं कहा अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, ये मेरा इंटरप्रिटेशन था। उन्होंने सिर्फ ये कहा है कि वो सुप्रीम नॉलेज पाने के लिए उस रिट्रीट में थे। ओके, तो सुप्रीम नॉलेज क्या है, ये हमने अपने स्टडी में हम क्या समझते हैं सुप्रीम नॉलेज को, ये मैं डिस्क्राइब कर रही थी। ओके, सो अहम ब्रह्मास्मि इज अ महावाक्य इन आवर स्क्रिप्चर्स, so that is what I just quoted. Okay, right. And what is your other question, please?
क्या पूछा आपने?
आपकी पर्सनालिटी,
क्योंकि उसमें कैपिटल एस था इसलिए कंफ्यूज हो गया था।
जी, उसमें लेटर में कैपिटल एस लिखा है, बट इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट व्हेन आई रेड द लेटर आई इंटरप्रेटेड इट एज द लोअर सेल्फ, because he is mentioning it that it is temporary and it is connected to illusion. It is a passing self, passing phase, transitory.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brother Pradeep ji, perhaps you can throw some light on that, why the S is capital, but it is alluding to temporary or illusion.
Yes.
शर्मा जी,
बोलिए सर।
एक्चुअली आप जो बता रहे हैं ना, यू आर टेलिंग देयर आर सपोज इफ वी गो बाय आवर हिंदू स्क्रिप्चर लाइक सेल्फ, स्मॉल सेल्फ, ऑल स्मॉल सेल्फ, और एस कैपिटल, देन ऑल कैपिटल लेटर सेल्फ. So it will vary in a different text. आप इसमें ये जो confusion में मत पड़ो। हाँ, तो जो टोटल लेटर में लिखा है ना, तो इसका बारे में जो सेंटेंस आपका पास, तो जो महात्मा लेटर किताब है, तो इसमें लिखा है इट इज जस्ट अ पासिंग गेस्ट. Passing guest means today somebody will come to your house, आपका घर में आएंगे, तो आप इसको आदर जत्न करेंगे, नेक्स्ट डे और नेक्स्ट डे आफ्टर नेक्स्ट डे 2 days he will live. So ऐसा है. तो हमारा जो पर्सनालिटी है, the small little self, वो तो ऐसा होगा ना. And here actually S capital, it is creating confusion to you. But the subsequent wordings reveals that it is only your personality, means lower self, वो जो बार-बार जन्म होता है, इसलिए वो बताता है.
Right, sir. Thank you.